Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chair Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtabdayeshu Vadveshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, we are starting new chapter, chapter 4, the four categories of universal annihilation. Text number 1 onwards. Shri Shukuvata, Kalaste Parmanvadir, Dviparardha Vadir Ripa, Tatito Yugamanam Cha, Shrnu Kalpa, Layavapi. Shukdev Goswami said, My dear king, I have already described to you the measurements of time beginning from the smallest fraction measured by the movement of a single atom up to the total lifespan of Lord Brahma. I have also discussed the measurement of the different millennia of universal history. Now hear about the time of Brahma's day and the process of annihilation. So this time calculation, Shukdev Goswami described long time back, when in third canto. Chaturyug Sahasram tu Brahmano Dinam Uchyate Sakalpo Yatra Manvash Chaturdash Vishampate. 1,000 cycles of 4 ages constitute a single day of Brahma, known as Kalpa. In that period of king, 14 Manus come and go. So this he described in Bhagavad Gita also. So 14 Manus in one day of Brahma, when one day of Brahma is 1,000 cycles of 4 ages. And every Manu then rules for 71 Chaturyugas. So 14 Manus. And then, so 71 times 14 is 994. But here it says 1,000. So if we calculate 6 Chaturyuga divided by 15 time periods. So 15, why 15, 14 Manus? So 13 in between time periods and one before and one after. So 15 time periods when the one Manu gives up and the other Manu takes over, the transition period. So that comes out to be about, not about, exactly the duration of a Satyuga, 17,96,000 years. So it's not like it is Satyuga, it's just a time period is that much. So that's where the total calculation becomes 1,000 cycles of 4 days. And that's one day of Brahma. That's like 12 hours of Brahma. It's so long as this night. And then when 14 Manus come and go in one day of Brahma, and every Manu, for every Manu, all the different demigods, they change. I mean, new people come in those positions. It's 14 times. All these demigods change. Indra change. The current Indra's name is Purandar. Next time, it will be Bali Maharaj, who we studied about. He will be next Indra, next Manvantara. 33 crore demigods, they change in one day of Brahma, 14 times. Tadante pralayastavahan brahmi ratri rudarhita harta trayo lokaime tatra kalpante pralayayahi. After one day of Brahma, annihilation occurs during his night, which is of the same duration. At that time, all the 3 planetary systems are subject to destruction. After one day of Brahma. Well, it says all the 3 planetary systems, which is up to Swargloka is gone up to certain loka. Above that, like Brahmaloka and Janaloka, Tapaloka, they remain at the end of Brahma's day. Esha Namitika Prokta Pralayo Yatra Vishwasrik Shtete Anantasano Vishwam Atma Sat Kritya Chatma Bhu. This is called the Namitika, or occasional annihilation, during which the original creator, Lord Narayan, lies down upon the bed of annunciation and absorbs the entire universe within himself, while Lord Brahma sleeps. So this Lord Narayan lies down upon the bed of Ananshesha. So this is Garbhodaksha Vishnu within the universe, because the universe has not destroyed yet. It's some planets they get destroyed. Dviprardhe tvatikrante brahmana parameshthina tada prakritaya sapta kalpante pralayaya. When the two halves of the lifetime of Lord Brahma, the most elevated created being, are complete, the 7 basic elements of creation are annihilated. When the two halves of the lifespan, so one half is called, it's called pararardhe, dviprardhe. So, 2 halves. So, according to one calculation, you can say, or mention of scripture. So this, currently, we are in 53rd year of Lord Brahma. Oh, it's a very, very long time for its own lifetime. But it is mentioned somewhere that it's the 53rd year of Lord Brahma. 53rd year, and then I don't know how many months have passed. And so in this day of Lord Brahma, this is the 7th Manus, 28th Dwapara Yuga, and has ended, so 28th Kali Yuga is going on. Esha prakritiko rajan pralayo yatra liyate andakoshastu sanghato vighata upasadite. O king, upon the annihilation of the material elements, the universal egg, comprising its elemental amalgamation of creation, is confronted with destruction. It is significant that Shukadeva Goswami, the spiritual master of King Parikshit, is broadly discussing cosmic annihilation just before the death of his disciple. By attentively hearing the story of universal destruction, one can easily understand one's personal departure from this temporary world to be an insignificant incident within the gigantic scope of the total material manifestation. By his deep and relevant discussions of the creation of God, Shukadeva Goswami, as an ideal spiritual master, is preparing his disciple for the moment of death. So the whole universe is going to destroy. So what's the big deal if we leave this body? Parjanya Shatvarshani, Bhumo Rajanna Varshati, Tada Niranne hi Anyonyam Bhakshyam Mana Shudhartita, Chayam Yasyanti Shanaka, Kale no Druta Prajaha. Okay, how the destruction takes place. As the annihilation approaches, O king, there will be no rain upon the earth for 100 years. Drought will lead to famine, and the starving populace will literally consume one another. The inhabitants of the earth, bewildered by the force of time, will gradually be destroyed. So that is what's going to happen. 100 years, no rain. Samudram dahikam homam rasam samvartiko ravihi rashmi bhi pibate ghorah sarvam neva vimunchati. The sun in its annihilating form will drink up with its terrible rays all the water of the ocean, of living bodies, and of the earth itself. But the devastating sun will not give any rain in return. Tata samvartako vahani sankarshan mukhotitha dahati anil vegotha shunyan bhuvi varanatha. Next, the great fire of annihilation will flare up from the mouth of Lord Sankarshan. So Lord Sankarshan is sitting below, and all the universes are sitting on his head, just like mustard seeds. That's how big the universes are for him. And from his mouth, the fire will come out. And this fire, carried by the mighty force of the wind, this fire will burn throughout the universe, scorching the lifeless cosmic shell. So first, no rain, everything will dry up, everything will be finished, and then sun scorching heat, and then this fire of annihilation. Wow. Upari yadha samantacha shekhabhirvahani suryayo dayamana vibhatyandam dagda gomaya pindavat. Burning from all sides, from above by the blazing sun and from below by the fire of Lord Sankarshan, the universal sphere will glow like a burning ball of cow dung. Tata prachanda pavano varshanam adhikam shatam para samvartako vati dhumram kham rajasa vratam. A great and terrible wind of destruction will begin to blow for more than 100 years, and the sky covered with dust will turn gray. Tato mega kulanyanga chitra varnani anekasha shatam varshani varshanti nadanti rabhasasvanah. After that, a king, group of multicolored clouds will gather, roaring terribly with thunder, and will pour down floods of rain for 100 years. So first no rain for 100 years, and then when everything is burned, 100 years of rain and pour down floods of rain. And again we see this word samvartako, samvartako. So this will be the samvartak clouds will come. And these are the clouds that come for the destruction at the time of annihilation. And these were the clouds Indra called upon when Krishna stopped Indra Puja and he started Govardhan Puja. So these were the clouds who came at the order of Indra to inundate the Braj. They can inundate the whole universe, but they could not even destroy a single blade of grass in Braj. This is how powerful Krishna's protection potency is. Tat ekodakam vishvam brahmanda vivarantaram. At that time, the shell of the universe will fill up with water, forming a single cosmic ocean. The shell of the universe. And we saw how big the universe is. We studied that. And the whole thing will be filled up with water. Tada bhumir gandha gunam grasantyap udaplave grasta gandha tu prithvi pralayatvaye kalpate. As the entire universe is flooded, the water will rob the earth of its unique quality of fragrance, and the element earth, deprived of its distinguishing quality, will be dissolved. So the element earth will be gone, not just the planet earth, the element earth will be gone. As clearly explained throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, the first element, sky, possesses the unique quality of sound. As creation expands, the second element, air, comes into being and it possesses sound and touch. The third element, fire, possesses sound, touch, and form. And the fourth element, water, possesses sound, touch, form, and flavor. The earth possesses sound, touch, form, flavor, and aroma. As each element loses its unique distinguishing quality, it naturally becomes indistinguishable from the more subtle elements and is thus effectively dissolved as a unique entity. So from earth, when aroma is gone, it's the same thing as water. Apamarasam atho tejas taliyante ath nirasa grasate tejaso rupam vayus tadrahitam tada liyate chanile tejo vayo kham grasate gunam savai vishati kham rajan tatascha navaso gunam shabdam grasati bhutadir navastam anu liyate tejas chadashas chendriya anyanga Devan Vekariko Gune Mahan Grasati Ankaram Guna Satvadadesh Tama Grasate Avyakratam Rajan Gunan Kalena Choditam Natasya Kala Vayave Parinamadayo Guna Anadi Anantam Avyaktam Nityam Karanam Avyayam. The element fire then seizes the taste from the element water, which deprived of its unique quality, taste, then merges into water, into fire. Air seizes the form inherent in fire, and then fire deprived of form merges into air. The element ether seizes the quality of air, namely touch, and that air enters into ether. So when it says the element fire seizes taste, how does it seize? I don't know. It's not explained. I have no idea. How air seizes the form inherent in fire and then merges into air. Fire. The element ether seizes quality of air, and that air enters into ether. I don't know how it happens. Then, O king, false ego in ignorance seizes sound, the quality of ether, after which ether merges into false ego. False ego in the mode of passion takes hold of the senses, and false ego in the mode of goodness absorbs the demigods. Then the total Mahat Tattva seizes false ego along with its various functions. That Mahat is seized by the three basic modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. My dear King Parikshit, these modes are further overtaken by the original unmanifest form of nature impelled by time, and that is Pradhan. That unmanifest nature is not subject to the six kinds of transformation caused by the influence of time. Rather, it has no beginning and no end. It's the unmanifest, eternal, and infallible cause of creation. So then the whole thing is gone. Na yatra vacho na mano na sattvam tamo rajo vaha mad adayo ami na prana buddhindriya devata va na sannivesha khalu loka kalpaha na swapna jagran na tat sushuptam na kham dalam bhur anilo agnir arkaha samsupta vachunya vad pratarkyam tanamula bhutam padam amananti. In the unmanifest stage of material nature called Pradhan, there is no expression of words, no mind, and no manifestation of the subtle elements beginning from the Mahat, nor are there the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So here it said there is no expression of words, no mind, nothing. Only Pradhan is there. That is unmanifest stage of material nature. And those who follow Mayavad philosophy, impersonal philosophy, in the beginning there was word, and from word everything came into it. Here it says there is no expression of words. There is no life or intelligence, nor any senses or demigods. There is no definite arrangement of planetary systems, nor are there present the different stages of consciousness, sleep, wakefulness, and deep sleep. There is no ether, water, earth, air, fire, or sun. The situation is just like that of complete sleep or of voidness. Indeed, it is indescribable. Authorities in spiritual science explain, however, that in Pradhan is the original substance, is the actual basis of material creation. Laya prakritiko hi esha purusha vyaktayor yada shaktya sampraliyante vivasha kala vidruta. This is the annihilation called prakritika, during which the energies belonging to the Supreme Person and his unmanifest material nature, disassembled by the force of time, are deprived of their potencies and merged together totally. Buddhindriyartha rupena jnanam bhati tadashrayam drishyat vyatirekabhyam adi antavadastu yat. It is the absolute truth alone who manifests in the forms of intelligence, the senses, and the objects of sense perception, and who is their ultimate basis. Whatever has a beginning and an end is insubstantial because of being an object perceived by limited senses and because of being non-different from its own cause. So it all comes from the absolute truth, or Lord Mahavishnu, who is expansion of Krishna. And whatever has a beginning and end is insubstantial because of being an object perceived by limited senses. But this is It all comes from the Lord, and it's non-different because it's Lord's energy. The word Drishyatva indicates that all subtle and gross material manifestations are made visible by the potency of the Supreme Lord and again become invisible or unmanifest at the time of annihilation. They are therefore, in a sense, not separate from the source of their expansion and withdrawal. दीपश्चक्षुश्च रूपं च ज्योतिषो न पृथक् भवेत् एवं दीखानि मात्राश्च न स्युर् अन्यतम adritat. A lamp, the eye that views by the light of that lamp and the visible form that is viewed are all basically non-different from the element fire. In the same way, intelligence, the senses and sense perceptions have no existence separate from the supreme reality, although that absolute truth remains totally distinct from them. So it's same and different at the same time. Buddha jagaranam swapna sushuptiriti cha uchyate maya matramidam rajan nanatvam pratyagatmani. The three states of intelligence are called waking consciousness, sleep, and deep sleep. But, my dear king, the variegated experiences created for the pure living entity by these different states are nothing more than illusion. Variegated experiences, the three different states, are nothing more than illusion. Pure Krishna consciousness exists beyond the various stages of material awareness. Just as darkness vanishes in the presence of light, so illusory material intelligence, which is experienced as normal perception, dreaming, and deep sleep, completely vanishes in the brilliant presence of pure Krishna consciousness, which is the constitutional condition of every living entity. So, waking, the sleep, deep sleep, they can also compare to three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. So everything is Krishna consciousness takes us beyond all this. Yatha jaladhara vyomni bhavanti na bhavanti cha brahmani idam tatha vishwam avyaya yapyaya. Just as clouds in the sky come into being and are then dispersed by the amalgamation and dissolution of the constitutional elements, this material universe is created and destroyed within the absolute truth by the amalgamation and dissolution of its elemental constituent parts. So right now what we see is just amalgamation means a mixing of all these elements. That's all it is. Satyam hi avyavayaha prokta sarva vaya vinamyaha vinarthena pratiyeran patasya vangatantavaha. My dear king, it is stated in the Vedanta Sutra that the ingredient cause that constitutes any manifested product in this universe can be perceived as a separate reality, just as the threads that make up a cloth can be perceived separately from their product. So threads, any cloth made up of threads of say cotton, so all the threads can be seen separately from the cloth. But again, it's the elements, it's the same. Yat samanya visheshabhyam uplabhyet sabhrama anyo anya pashrayat sarvam adi antavad vastu yat. Anything experienced in terms of general cause and specific effect must be an illusion, because such causes and effect exist only relative to each other. Indeed, whatever has a beginning and an end is unreal. And our body has a beginning and an end. Soul doesn't have a beginning and end. Krishna clearly says that in Bhagavad Gita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, although the cause of all causes, has no beginning or end. Therefore, he is neither material nor illusory. Lord Krishna's opulences and potencies are absolute reality beyond the interdependence of material cause and effect. And in the material world, material universe, everything is temporary. Vikara khyaya manopi pratyagatma anam antara na nirupyo asti anur api syat chet sim atmavat. Although perceived the transformation of even a single atom material nature has no ultimate definition without reference to the Supreme Soul. Transformation of even a single atom of material nature has no ultimate definition without reference to the Supreme Soul. To be accepted as factually existing, something must possess the same quality as pure spirit, which is eternal and unchanging existence. So a mirage of water appearing in the desert is actually a manifestation of light. The false appearance of water is a specific transformation of light. That which falsely appears as independent material nature is similarly a transformation of the Supreme Personality of God. Material nature is the external potency of the Lord. So to be accepted as factually existing, even for some time, it has to have the basis of the Supreme Lord, pure spirit. Otherwise, it cannot exist. Nahi satyasya nanatvam avidvan yadi manyate nanatvam chidrayor yadvach jyoteshor vatayoriva. There is no material duality in the absolute truth. The duality perceived by an ignorant person is like the difference between the sky contained in an empty part and the sky outside the part, or the difference between the reflection of sun and water and the sun itself in the sky, or the difference between vital layer within one living body and that within another body. But there is no duality in the absolute truth. It's all the same. It's all the same means it all comes from one source. Spiritually, we all are same, one soul. I mean, every soul is spiritual, not that every soul is same. Constitutionally same, but the consciousness is different. So that way there is no duality, but the duality is there because consciousness is different. Yatha hiranyam bahuda samiyate nribi kriyabhir vyavahar vartmasu evam vachobhir bhagwan adhokshajo vyakhyayate loki vadikar janah. According to their different purposes, men utilize gold in different ways, and gold is therefore perceived in various forms. In the same way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inaccessible to material senses, is described in various terms, both ordinary and Vedic, by different types of men. But Supreme Lord is the same. All those who are not pure devotees of the Supreme Lord are basically trying to exploit the Lord and his energies. According to their strategy of exploitation, they conceive of and describe the absolute truth in various ways. In the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the absolute truth presents himself as he actually is for the benefit of sincere people who do not foolishly try to conceptually manipulate the Supreme Godhead. So, different ways, everybody conceive of him in differently based on their own consciousness. But our problem is we want to exploit him, exploit his nature instead of serving him. Yatha ghano arka prabhavo arka darshito yarkancha bhutasya cha chakshushtamaha evam tvaham brahma gunasta dikshito brahmansh kasyatmana atma bandhana. Although a cloud is a product of the sun and is also made visible by the sun, it nevertheless creates darkness for the viewing eye, which is another partial expansion of the sun. Similarly, material false ego, a particular product of the absolute truth, made visible by the absolute truth, obstructs the individual soul, another partial expansion of the absolute truth from realizing the absolute. Material false ego, which means I'm this body, it's a particular product of the absolute truth, and it's made visible by the absolute truth, because without his giving us knowledge, we cannot see anything. And what does it do? It obstructs the individual soul from realizing the absolute truth. But it depends. What do we want? Dhano yadarka prabhavo vidiriyate chakshu swarupam ravimikshate tata yada hankar upadhiratmano Jigyasaya nashyati tarhi anusmareta. When the cloud originally produced from the sun is torn apart, the eye can see the actual form of the sun. Similarly, when the spirit soul destroys this material covering of false ego by inquiring into the transcendental science, he regains his original spiritual awareness. Just as the sun can burn away the clouds that prevent one from seeing it, the Supreme Lord and He alone can remove the false ego that prevents one from seeing Him. There are some creatures, however, like owls, who are averse to seeing the sun because they only come out in the night. In the same way, those who are not interested in spiritual knowledge will never receive the privilege of seeing God. So the ignorance comes from Him and the enlightenment also comes from Him. Depends, what do we want? Yadevametena vivekahetina maya mayankaranatma bandhanam chitva chutatmanu bhavavat avatishtate tamahurati ante kamanga samplavam. My dear Parikshit, when the illusory false ego that binds the soul has been cut off with the sword of discriminating knowledge, and one has developed realization of Lord Achyuta, the Supreme Soul. This is called Atyantika, or ultimate annihilation of material existence. So that also we can finish off. Not just go with annihilation of the universe, we can annihilate the material existence also. Nityada sarva bhutanam brahmadinam parantapa utpatti pralayaveke sukshmagya samprachakshate. Experts in subtle workings of nature or subduer of the enemy have declared that there are continuous processes of creation and annihilation that all created beings, beginning with Brahma, constantly undergo. So they're continuous process, because in our body also cells are changing, creation and annihilation taking place. So continuously these things are happening. Kala Sroto Javenashu Hriye Manasya Nityada Parinaminam Avasthasta Janma Pralaya Hetavaha. All material entities undergo transformations and are constantly and swiftly eroded by the mighty currents of time. The various stages of existence that material things exhibit are the perpetual causes of their generation and annihilation. Anadiyantavatana kaleneshwaramurtina avasthaneva drishyante viyate jyotishameva. These stages of existence created by the beginningless and endless time, the impersonal representative of the Supreme Lord, are not visible, just as the infinitesimal momentary changes of position of the planets in the sky cannot be directly seen. So they are not visible, these changes that are happening in our body or in the universe. Although everyone knows that sun is constantly moving in the sky, one cannot normally see the sun moving. Similarly, no one can directly perceive his hair or nails growing, although with the passing of time, we perceive the fact of growth. Time, the potency of the Lord is very subtle and powerful and is an insurmountable barrier to fools who are trying to exploit the material creation. This is how wonderful His creation is. So that's why we have to develop this Shastra Chakshusha. Shastra Chakshu means see through the eyes of the scriptures. With our own eyes, we cannot see them. Nityo namitikashcheva tatha prakritiko laya atyantikashcha kathita kalyasya gate ridrishi. In this way, the process of time is described in terms of the four kinds of annihilation: continuous, occasional, elemental, and final. Eta kurushreshta jagad vidadhatur narayanasyakhil sattva dhamna ila kathaste kathita samasata karsanena najo api abhidhatu nisha. O best of the Kurus, I have related to you these narrations of the pastimes of Lord Narayan, the creator of this world, and the ultimate reservoir of all existence, presenting them to you only in brief summary. Even Lord Brahma himself would be incapable of describing them entirely. See, these are the pastimes of Lord Narayan. Nobody can understand, and describing them is even more difficult. Sansara Sindhu Mati Dustararam Uttirshur Nanya Plavo Bhagavata Purushottamasya Leela Kathara Sanishen and Sanishevanam Antarena Punso Bhaved Vedu Vivid Dukhad Varditasya. For a person who is suffering in the fire of countless mysteries and who desires to cross the insurmountable ocean of material existence, there is no suitable boat except that of cultivating devotion to the transcendental taste or the narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's pastimes. So this is the only boat, the only shelter that we have. Although it's not possible to completely describe the pastimes of the Lord, even a partial appreciation can save one from the unbearable miseries of material existence. The fever of material existence can be removed only by the medicine of the holy name and pastimes of the Supreme Lord, which are perfectly narrated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Purana Samhitam Etam Rishir Narayano Avyaya Naradaya Pura Praha Krishna Dvapaya Naya Saha. Long ago, this essential anthology of all the Puranas was spoken by infallible Lord Narayan to Rishi to Narad, who then repeated it to Krishna Dvapayana Vedavyas. So this is coming to the end of Srimad Bhagavatam. Save Mayam Maharaja Bhagwan Badarayana Imam Bhagavatim Prita Samhitam Veta Samhitam. Being pleased with me, O King, that great personality, Srila Vyasadeva, taught me the same scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal in stature to the 4 Vedas. Imam Vakshatya Sututa Drishibhyo Namishalaya Dirga Satre Kuru Shrestha Samprishta Shonakadivi. O best of the Kurus, the same Suta Goswami who is sitting before us will speak this Bhagavatam to the sages assembled in the great sacrifice at Naimisharanya. This he will do when questioned by the members of the assembly headed by Shaunak Rishi. Wow. So thus ends the purpose to 12th canto, 4th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The 4 Categories of Universal Annihilation. So we'll stop here, and tomorrow we'll take up the next chapter. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Lord Krishna, the peacock wing which he puts on his head, right, in front, forehead. Is there any story why he was putting that?
There are various stories that I read. I don't know the authoritative story, which is the real one. I mean, they're pastime, different pastimes of Krishna. So that's what they say, but I don't know which one the real one.
So there was one story my mom was telling a few days back, and it was like, I'll speak in Hindi on that. So Radha ji ki, like when he met Radha, तो श्री राधा जी की जो चोटी बहुत लंबी, मतलब बड़ी थी. He requests Yashoda Maiya that Radha की तो चोटी बहुत लंबी है and my hair is short, so I want like that. बच्चे जैसे जिद करते हैं उस तरह से उन्होंने बोला. And then यशोदा मैया को इधर उधर देखने लगे and suddenly उनको वो मिल गया मोर का एक पंख, और वो उनके फोरहेड पे उन्होंने लगा के और हेयर के साथ उन्होंने जैसे एक बच्चों का होता है ना, रिबन लगा देते हैं छोटे में,
I don't
काइंड
know
ऑफ
because भाई वो अब these are some
ऐसी कोई स्टोरी है
stories
सब।
I don't know, मैंने कहीं और नहीं पढ़ा है इसलिए I don't know.
ऑथेंटिक नहीं है, इसलिए आई थॉट प्रभु जी आई लास्ट, बिकॉज स्टोरी बन भी जाती है बहुत सारी, तो नो वन नोस।
हाँ, कोई ऑथेंटिक स्टोरी कहीं मिलेगी तो अल्लाह चलिए।
ओके, थैंक यू।
ठीक है, चलो ओके। यस मंथ।
जो राम जी को जब रास्ता दिखाना था भगवान जी को, मतलब राम जी के जब ढूंढ रहे थे सीता मैया को, तो उस टाइम शायद मोर ने ही उनको वो रास्ता दिखाया था। और उस तरह से कहते हैं कि मोर का पंख तब गिरता है जबकि मतलब आई हैव रेड समवेयर, जब वो डेथ के लिए नियर होता है, तो वो मोर अपना मतलब एक एक पंख गिराता गया और उनको रास्ता दिखाया। तो इसी वजह से राम जी ने उनको बोला था कि मैं आपको इसका मतलब ऋण चुकाऊंगा और मैं आपको हमेशा अपने सर पे धारण करूंगा, क्योंकि आपने मुझे सीता को ढूंढने के लिए वो जब क्या बोलते हैं उसको,
अगेन
That was जटायु माता जी। जटायु when रावण
हाँ,
अगेन
तो
आई डोंट नो।
यस प्रभु जी,
तो वो
आई
गिरता
थॉट
गया
टू
और
शेयर कि बहुत सारी स्टोरीज हैं एक्चुअली।
कौन सी
दो
सही है
चीजें थी,
कौन
एक
सी
तो
नहीं?
वो थी और सीता जी
हरे
की कुछ
कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
ऑर्नामेंट्स थी जो उन्होंने। हाँ माता जी, सीता
मुझे बस ये पता है कि it just is very very beautiful and he just likes it and puts it on. That's all I know.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a short, I haven't heard it, I just got in the morning. Gaurang Darshan Prabhuji is saying why Krishna वो धारण करते हैं. I'll share in the group. Maybe I don't know, but I can share if it helps.
प्लीज प्लीज।
Sure.
हाँ Prabhuji, I'll share Prabhuji. In a while I'll share in 5 minutes.
Okay, Mata. Okay. Thank you, Mata. Chalo, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji.